Shelly. I wanted to make a short home exercise video for you just so you have a little something to continue to work on until we get to meet in the near future. So let's go ahead and get started. I know that the first and the one time that we have gotten to meet, I sent you home with some foam roller activities. So those are still a go. But what I'd like to do with this home exercise video is give you maybe about 3 mat exercises just to kind of work on, just to have in your repertoire. So I think things that would be appropriate for you, Shelly. The first one is going to be a pelvic lift or a bridge position. Focus being on keeping the spine in one kind of stable piece, so a stabilizing bridge. So for you, I want you to feel the collarbone spread open, the entire length of the arm from the head of the humerus down to the fingers, pressing into the mat. And the idea here is feel your feet pressing down. I want to reach my knees forward, press my arms down, and the line of my hips or the hips float up. With my inhale, I'm going to crease at the hip to come down. So I'm not snaking down through my spine like sometimes we do in class. I want you to really focus on keeping the spine as a stable unit. So that means ribs and pelvis pretty much in the same plane as you lift and as you lower. So notice that when I'm up here at the top of my bridge, I want to make sure or try to keep my ribs set in the same line as my pelvis. And I would say, Shelly, let's go for 10 of these. Really focusing on the hinging at this hip joint. So as I lift, my hips open. As I lower, I want you to feel that your hips really get good and deep, a good deep hip crease. And lift, so again, about 10 repetitions there. And then, Shelly, I'd like for you to move into next exercise. I'd like you to do a side lying exercise. So it's going to be a modified side kick. So I'm resting my head on my arm, my head, my rib cage, my pelvis, and even the heels, it's like they're up against a wall, okay? So they're in a straight line. I will ask you to lift your top leg to about hip level. And very much like a running position, I'm going to ask you to bring this knee forward and then take the knee back. So the knee itself, I should say, the knee joint remains bent, but I'm bringing the thigh up without rounding my spine. I'm taking the thigh back in line at least with my pelvis or the hip joint, so very much like a running pattern. Again, I would say maybe actually about 12 of these on each side, Shelly. So can I keep the rib cage, the pelvis, again, pretty still as I move freely in the hip joint? So that was exercise number 2. I do think number 3, as far as exercise, I'd like you to have one from hands and knees. So it's good to have some weight bearing on the wrists to hopefully, again, just increase the approximation or the we need some weight bearing on those bones, especially in the wrist joint, to hopefully reduce the risk of fracture. This is also a great place to get some weight bearing into the hip joint as well. So I want to try to keep my head, my ribs, my pelvis again in a straight line. And this is a good old kind of what we call a spinal balance in yoga, or even kind of a swimming modification in Pilates. I'm going to ask you to take one leg back, and if you'll notice, my toes are tucked under, so I've got a kickstand. I'm going to extend one arm out. So I've got opposite arm, opposite leg reaching, but my goal is that I have not changed through my spine. I didn't tip off to the side or twist. I come back in. I'm going to try that on the other side. So I want to get my steady base, strong shoulders, upper back broad. I'm going to extend opposite arm, opposite leg, but I've got a kickstand. If you choose to take it further, you would just float the hand and the arm off of the mat. But again, can I keep all of those points in mind? Head in line with the ribs, in line with the pelvis. Try to stay on the same center line as you reach. And again, even as you might float the arm, the hand and the foot off. And I would say playing with that, maybe do about 6 on each side. I hope this helped, Shelly.